Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Horrific Chat. In this segment, we talk to various independent creators to discuss their work, influences, and journey into horror. Tonight, we're joined by filmmaker Gene Dolders, currently working on his latest project, The Blade Cuts Deeper. Evening, Gene, and welcome. How are you, man?
Hi, Colin. I'm good, thanks, and thanks for having me on your show. Really
No, thanks
appreciate
for
it.
coming on. Yeah, we just kind of met randomly online. I think it was a Facebook group or something. I think you just put a post up, wasn't it?
I did, yeah. I can't remember which group it was now because I am a member of so many. Yeah, I made a post. I think just advertising the fact that I was making the movie, or we were just about to go into production, or we just finished principal photography. I can't really remember. And then I think it'd been up for a while, and then you responded to it. But yeah.
Yeah, it was just happenstance. But great. That's a well. We spend a lot of time, I think, riffing on social media and the evils of it, but it's also a very useful tool. So I think more balanced thought. We take the positive with the negatives. What we sort of try and because a lot of people don't want to create; they're afraid of getting involved because of social media. And the thing I'm trying to talk to is here, like, tell me an experience with a troll, how you dealt with it, and uh, busy just to let people know, yeah, we can get over this and move on because social media is a scary thing that it actually puts so many people off. Or just, I don't know, I think they're afraid of getting dogpiled on by like random weirdos.
Yeah, no, I agree. You know what? I'm lucky because still nobody knows who I am. I haven't had any trolls, so I'm okay at the moment.
That's when
Unless
you know you've made it. I see it as leveling up. When you get your first troll, you're like, yes, I am somebody. Yes, I've angered somebody so much that they've emailed me. Yes, winner.
I think because for quite a long time I'd used social media simply to interact with friends and family, because for about 10 years I lived outside of the UK, and it was just useful to get back in contact with people and, kind of show this what I was doing, or for me to see what other people are doing and then chat on the messengers. But I've never really advertised myself creatively. A lot of people be like, I'm filming this, or I'm doing this, I'm working on this project. It wasn't until somebody told me that I needed to start doing that just before I started making my first feature that I actually started actively just going on groups, or just even telling my friends, like, yeah, I'm doing this and I'm doing this, and I'm doing some filming and I'm doing this now. So it's still in that sense new to me, and I need to get better at it, especially with hashtags, apparently, because I'm not very good with hashtags and tagging things in the
Oh
post.
yeah, I actually went on back 2 years ago when everything shut down. I went on a social media course when it just starting off this whole project. God, when was that? That was 3 years ago. God, it's scary.
Yeah, it's
And that was one of the things. What are hashtags? And they're just database fields at the end of the day. So that's all they
it's
are.
just
Search
another way
fields.
of adding metadata, isn't it, to the
Yeah.
post? That's it. I kind of do. I do understand how you're supposed to use it. It's just implementing it in your kind of day-to-day life, because it wasn't something I was used to doing, and I'm still not doing it that well now. And I think somebody else might actually start taking over the social media accounts for the movie that we've made, because they'll be better at it than I have, and simply I don't have enough time. I mean, I'm quite impressed by creative people who have the time to create all this stuff, but then also have the time to advertise it so much on social media as well, because I only seem to have time to do one or the other.
Yeah, and I actually talked to quite a few people about that, and that is the struggle. We've talked about the whole self-promotion thing. It's a bane of any creator's life. It's it's the work element, if that makes sense. People find it the most work. Actually, oh, look at me, I'm brilliant. Like, you have to be a complete sociopath, narcissist to enjoy that.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'd agree with that, definitely. I think, yeah, no, I'll just completely agree with what you just said.
Which is funny enough, because actually, so is this your first feature film? Because I know your website's down at the moment. It's currently getting restructured, so a bit tricky to see your full back catalogue.
Yeah, so it's my first feature film I've directed. It's not the first feature film I've worked on. It's to give you a little rundown. I've directed 2 short narratives, and then I was about to, I was in the process of writing the third one with Alex, who co-wrote the feature film with me, and we were writing it, and we got to about 40 pages. I was like, this is just too long for a short film now, and we just had so many ideas that the third short film just turned into the feature film instead. So my plan was originally just to make another short film. So I've only actually directed 2 short films before this, but a lot of my background is in commercial filmmaking and doing stuff.
Yeah, because I was actually going to ask that. The whole, the fucking typical trope interview question ever. How did you get into filmmaking, and where did you start, and how's that sort of journey come along to this point?
Well, I got into filmmaking because I guess like most people, I loved films when I was younger. It made a very big impression on me. It's a very good way to escape. It's purely escapism for me, movies. I'm not a fan of watching biographies. I'm not really a fan of watching anything that's too close to real life, because movies for me are pure escapism. If I wanted to watch, some like a biography, I'd rather watch a documentary instead of a movie. Movies are meant to take me away from life, and that's what I want to make as well. So from very young age, about 8 or 9, I got into horror. And then I think it was when I saw, I think I was 12 when I saw the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I think it was still technically banned in this country. That was 1992.
Yeah, that's people don't understand that. Right up until the 90s, the UK was like proper draconian censorship laws. In fact, we did a whole stream about censorship of horror and the whole history behind it. And yeah, the UK was the world leader in banning stuff and censorship and video nasties. And my co-host, actually he's on tomorrow with me, Cameron, he didn't understand the term video nasties and the fact that we didn't get to see any Argento movies till later on in life, or if you had some squatty mates sneaking back from Germany.
Well, that's it.
That was my pipeline.
I think it was like 98 when they finally made technically Texas Chainsaw. Well, it wasn't that it was technically legal; it just wasn't certified for a long time. So they finally certified in 98, and I remember it came out in the cinema. I think I went to see it like 3 times in 1 week when it came out. See it because it was still obviously 98. Everything was shown on 35mm then. But yeah, so I saw that when I was 12. And that made a very big impression on me. It's quite an intense movie, but it's also really good because it's so short. I think it's probably why it's ended up becoming my favorite film. I think obviously when you see a film like that at such a young age and makes a big impression, it's probably gonna, a long lasting impression if you enjoyed the ride that you went on, and I did. So it's now I consider it to be my favorite film, or the best film I've ever seen, and also it's short as well, which is something else I liked about it. So I kind of after that I gravitated more towards watching shorter horror movies, especially a lot of the stuff from the 80s, because those slashes are obviously quite short. They're not like 2.5 hour epics like some of them are now.
Do you think it's getting a bit more pretentious, or people just can't edit anymore? Maybe the advent from film into digital, changed the landscape. But at least with film, you're constrained. That directors had it right. I've only got 90 minutes. It'll only fit in one VHS tape. It'll only fit so much that'll fit onto a DVD. Was that a healthy thing to be limited in that? Have we gone too much the other way with streaming and the fact that you don't have to limit yourself to the length of a movie?
Well, I think it started in the 90s, didn't it? Really, I think with the longer movies, when you had Quentin Tarantino starting to make longer movies, and people kind of followed suit. You had these these multiple storylines going on, so obviously it accounted for needing quite a longer length, and it just movies started just kind of creeping up. Heat came out. That was I think the director's cut. That's like almost
that was
3 hours long
exhausting
now.
to watch. I remember that years ago. God, that
was... I mean, I like it, but there's a bit too much melodrama in it for me in some parts. But yeah, I think in the 90s it just started creeping up again. So I don't think it's anything that's modern now. I think it's just kind of been going on for a couple of decades, but now I think the style of filmmaking is so radically different from what I grew up watching that it doesn't work in a 2 to 2.5 hour length. The movies are very much almost like shorts that you might see on YouTube now, in the sense that everything's just happening so fast, but there's so much stuff happening over such a long period of time that it's hard to really be that interested in it, because you're just giving too much information. And you could argue, okay, maybe we just need more slow burners where there's a better creation with the characters and the story, and they could be 2.5 hours long or 90 minutes long, but it's just we invest more in the story and the characters instead. But yeah, it probably does have something to do with like somewhat post MTV generation, the way things just got edited. And my personal theory is this: we can blame Resident Evil 2, right? So if you watch, this is honestly my personal theory. So Resident Evil 2, the movie came out, and if you watch it, it's like watching a 90-minute music video, like a 90-minute horror music video, and it is. I found it
Wasn't that the
museum to
one
watch the
Slipknot that
reaction
Night
bits.
played the theme tune for, wasn't it?
All I remember is the sequences in the church.
No, it was the first one. Sorry, they did it for the first one. They did the theme tune. That's
for
when
the first one, yeah.
First one. Sorry, my apologies.
But no, it's okay. But yeah, I honestly think that was one of the major movies. Also, a lot helped along probably by people like Michael Bay and stuff like that. A lot of nonsensical films that just things are happening. But
we can blame Michael Bay for a lot of things in the movie industry.
Yeah, and Resident Evil 2. I want to get that out there.
Yeah, because Resident Evil series, yeah, they're popcorn flicks. Let's be honest. And they just got more and more goofy as the time went on.
The first one was okay. I tell you what, though, did you see the new one? The newest one was really good. What was it called? Welcome Raccoons. I think it was called Welcome to Raccoon City. Either way, it's really good. It's nothing to do with all the originals. None to do with the other franchise that came out. It's completely standalone. It's basically the first and second game perfectly put into a movie.
Right, because I got to the point where Alice was cloned about 1 million times, and that was a whole setup at the end of that movie. Then at the beginning of the next one, it was like a 5-minute scene. You're like, that was a waste of a setup.
Yeah.
Then it meandered. I think there was 2 after that. And then there's that weird one in the desert.
In Vegas, I think they're in Vegas.
Yeah, and then because it's funny because there was somebody on that using an A1 SA80 and it didn't jam once in the desert. And you're like, no, I think you're lying. the old SA80.
Yeah.
Before they revamped it, they'll take you like, bang bang, bang bang, flipping awful. And they had this thing in the movie and like, that's a lie. He's fired about 10 shots and not one jam. Don't think so. Sorry, I was just me being a bit of a nerd, pick up things up. And then they did the weird animated ones, didn't they? I think I checked out after that because I was just getting like.
Oh, I saw one of those where it opens up in an airport, and the whole film actually might be set in an airport, like a CG. It looked like a computer, like CGI one.
Yeah, like a Final Fantasy movie they did.
Yeah.
I just
But no, I wasn't really into them that much.
Either be animation or don't. This weird hybrid doesn't quite sit right. God, what was that one that had Keanu Reeves? It was like a weird animated one. Do you remember that? It was like a 1-letter title or something.
Keanu Reeves and what?
Yeah, he was a character, but it was like animated. But it was like,
I don't remember that one. It's kind of intriguing though.
Yeah, it was I forget it now, but it was just that was sort of the early mid-2000s, wasn't it, when this weird animation came in, and they couldn't quite decide whether to make an animated feature or a live action, and then they tried to hybrid the two, and it just looked terrible. It just takes you right out because, like you said, suspension of disbelief is everything.
I think well, that's it. I think if you go in that route, I would rather just watch kind of standard like manga anime style, than the computer generated one, or just have the CGI stuff mixed in with live action, in the background, how it should be used, like visual effects wise. But yeah, watching a whole movie like that, it's not interesting me. But I guess it's probably going to change a lot in the next 5-10 years with all the AI and how they're using virtual productions. They'll probably be able to. You probably won't even be able to tell the difference between a real person and the fake one that they create, that the quantum computers are all creating in the scenarios.
Yeah, that's why they're. Do you know what? The way Hollywood is, not having to listen to any of their actors, and if it's replaced by a computer, it's at least civil. I don't mind.
Well, if it's what's that show? Black Mirror. They had that first episode, didn't they, in the new season, where it's a quantum computer is creating multiple realities of one person's life, but it's just the computer seems to be able to follow this person in their daily life and then recreate it as a TV show for other people to stream. So I wouldn't be surprised if that actually becomes a reality. It'd be great.
Yeah, we're heading that direction. It's just I think we need to be. I love technology. I've grown up with it. I've seen the evolution. We wouldn't be able to do this without technology. But I think we need to temper it as well and just remember what we are, humans. We need the human experience as much as anything.
Well, yeah, I definitely don't want it to hamper too much on production side simply because I like being on set. I mean, I've never been a part of a movie production where they use virtual productions. I've worked with some people who have, and it just, from how they describe it, it sounds a little exciting because it'd be intriguing to see. But you're spending these virtual productions, these massive panels that basically actors are just standing in front of. You're just staying in a studio the entire time, and part of the fun of filming for me is filming on location, and so things that you can feel and touch, and also it's just I don't want to lose the human interaction aspect of making the movie either.
Do you think that's what will make independent movies more appealing? Because we've seen it with mainstream media. We're seeing it now. Hollywood's like, it's an injured animal, wounded animal, gravely, because it's just put off the audience so much. They're sick of the fakeness and insincerity. And we see it as well with mainstream, like interview channels. People would rather watch this, believe it or not, on YouTube than some studio where everyone's all polished and the same generic questions and tones and canned laughter. Laugh at this point, somebody holds up a sign, all that. I think people are sick of that. Do you think that gives independent cinema a chance then to really grow its niche?
I don't think independent cinema is having like a massive problem with its audience. I think independent cinema now, the biggest problem for independent cinema now is where you watch it. Because at least, say, if you go back to let's say 60s, 70s, and mostly, we'll talk, like America's a good example to use of that, but 60s and 70s, you got someone like Roger Corman making movies that are truly independent of a studio, but then they're also getting played at the cinema because that's the only place really you could go and watch it, and then with VHS coming in, not so bad, or Betamax and VHS coming in, not so bad, because still the movies have to play at the cinema regardless of if they were kind of independent or big studio, and then they would filter down.
There was always a progression, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Arrived in the cinema first, you waited a few months, and then it appeared in the video stores.
So that's what I think it should be now with like Netflix. Would make sense if everything still went on the cinema, that would kind of go on the cinema, and then Netflix would just get it later. And I think that's the problem, is that because people are just making stuff now specifically for streaming services, that indie stuff is always most likely just going to head there straight away, or to physical media like DVD and Blu-ray, because then if you just keep with the streaming services and just making stuff for them, independent cinema is never really going to get much of a chance to go back to cinema anymore, because, well, why should they?
Yeah. Talking of the independent, especially the independent horror movie scene, in the UK, is that in a healthy place right now? Because it's something that we were just talking before we went live. It's virtually impossible to get a bid on UK filmmakers or find out about projects. It's almost like you're an archaeologist or something. You're having to go hunting. It's not readily available.
Well, it's definitely not advertised, I think, as much as maybe possibly in the States. But yeah, I mean, there obviously are some around. Like I saw in the news the other day that they're resurrecting Amicus Studios again. Like did all the horror stuff around the 60s, 70s. I think it's a company called Hex Studio that are responsible for bringing that back. And there are independent filmmakers, but yeah, you're right. You don't really hear about them talked about that much, especially as much as the American kind of counterpart.
We purely met by chance, which is fortunate, but
I think more effort it needs to be made here for people to interact with each other and to get the word out. You got conventions, obviously, and you got film festivals, but people who really want to do that stuff are going to go to that stuff. And I think you're talking more about just kind of the general wider public.
Yeah, because film festivals are great, and that's I've talked to quite a few. I've talked America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, all over the place. And that's a lot of the things. They talk about distribution going to a film festival, but after the film festival, the movie just disappears into the ether.
Yeah, you'll get it at Asda, probably, on DVD,
Well, not really horror movies, let's be honest. I would say, it's because of the bias against horror. You're never going to see it in a supermarket or the airport. I would say, especially for horror books, the minute you see it in in the airport bookshop or in a supermarket shelf, it's been accepted. But that's two places you'll never find decent horror movies.
You got a good point there, yeah, because I was in Asda the other day, and the only horror movies on sale there were obviously the big ones being the cinema, like Smile was there. I saw that on the shelf, and some others. But yeah, if you're looking at true independent, there are some names that, I mean, I don't know the people, but I've seen some of the movies and I know of them. So you got a guy named Charlie Steeds who runs, was it Dark Temple Motion Pictures, who just, I think, makes movies straight for kind of the DVD home media market. I don't know if his movies, I think you could obviously get his movies on Amazon and stuff like that, but I think you're right. His level of movies that he's making, which are the ones that people should be supporting. I don't see them on sale in places like Asda, which would be good, instead of like the big budget ones like Smile that probably don't need the help. And I don't think anyone's buying that movie anyway.
I didn't mind it. I enjoyed it. There was a few plot points. We did a whole review on it. Cameron and I were like at loggerheads because I don't see a sequel. He thinks a sequel would be a good idea. I don't. I think I'll just be beating a dead horse.
Yeah, I think
that
so.
story's been told. Leave it there. That'll be it. If they make a sequel, it'll be like just milking it for the sake of it.
I think, yeah. No, I agree with that. I agree with that.
That was the 24 one, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? I don't remember.
I can't remember. It might have been. I think it might have been. Don't hold me to that.
I think also it's important to distinguish, like, what do we mean by independent? Because that, I think, has changed over the years as well. You know, independent cinema truly used to be, people used to associate independent cinema with like low budget productions, but now, I mean, maybe most people, members of the public don't understand this, but there's kind of different levels of budget. So you got like, you know, no budget, micro budget, low budget, you know, those different types of budgets, and those, the ranges of how much they cost have changed over the years. So from what years ago people would have classed as like no budget independent cinema that then suddenly made it big is actually have higher budgets now than they used to, because now we have something called like a no budget movie because of also the technology that we have access to. So it's good to define in this kind of modern age what we truly think independent cinema is. At what level are we talking?
Is it more the distribution aspect? If it's not like, I can talk more from books. Independent novels are classed as not one of the big 5 publishing houses. So if it's not part of that, it's classed as independent. But then you can also have like independent self-published, but then you've also independent small press, which are small publishing groups.
Yeah.
That, you know, that's still under the independent umbrella. But that's, cinema's like a completely different animal. But then that's why we're here, to have the conversation, to let people know, because maybe if people understand better, they're more likely to support it.
Well, yeah, I think if you stick with the classic kind of understanding that independent cinema is simply independent of the studio system, there's a lot of independent movies that end up on the cinema because, you know, the privately financed, and then, you know, studios pick them up and release them. But they, you know, it's an independent film in that sense, that it was made independently. But then you can go really far down the line and look at a company, say like my company, that's making its first feature film that was privately financed for, you know, it's a low budget movie, a truly independent, to the point that, you know,
you tried to partially crowdfund this as well.
Yeah, we tried. It did not work. It didn't work at all. No. So yeah,
one thing we'll talk about as well. People don't understand crowdfunding either, and they're very suspicious of it. So I've talked to a few studios, obviously, and they've explained where they're coming from, the crowdfunding and what you can get. And once again, it's about opening people's minds more, and I think they get to know the creator. That's where, especially British cinema, fails. People don't know who these are, so it's just another campaign.
Well, that's going back to my problem before of why I should be better at social media, because I think one of the key factors, in fact, if I had to put it in one of them within like the top 3 things that you need to do before you have a Kickstarter campaign, is definitely have a social media presence, because that's going to help you a lot. Because I do not, because I mostly use mine for family and friends. You know, what were we asking for? I think we were asking for £10,000 just to finish off what we needed to finish off. Luckily, I managed to source it privately anyway when the Kickstarter failed, so that was fine. But you know, I think we ended up with about 33% of the Kickstarter being successful, with, you know, people coming in and giving money, but they're not. You know, obviously we didn't succeed, so we didn't get the money from there.
Some of your tiers are a wee bit an expensive side, I noticed. Like other ones offer even just thank you credits for a lot less, so it seemed to be a bit in the price wise. And once again, it's a combination of that and getting your face out there so people can trust the brand. You know, it's like, we know Gene, we've seen Gene, he's appeared in this and that. Right, we know what he thinks about. See his passions behind something, so yeah, I'll support him. You know, that's half the balance. Not hard to do. You know, it's just engage with folks.
Well, you make a good point there as well. Yeah, it's about engaging and also like more like I think better rewards. You're right there. Some of the rewards were too expensive for what we were asking for people, and just simply more interest rewards, like more physical ones as well, would have helped. I think to help people engage. But yeah, I think the main thing at the beginning was engage with the audience, and then but see I have this confliction with me with that because. In order to engage with the audience, a lot of the time, okay, first of all, you're probably going to set up some kind of physical channel, most likely on YouTube, right? Probably.
Well, maybe not go that far. You can have a YouTube account, and if you take part in an interview, you can create your own playlists. So without having to physically make loads of videos yourself, if you take, like, for example, this one, if you had your YouTube account, you add this as a playlist, interviews, and then it appears on your channel. So that way you've got content without having to actually worry about, I've got to set this time aside, I've got to make this. What do I talk about? That's why people like me exist, because you've got to go upset with not much talent, with big mouth and a mic.
Oh, that's not true.
And I do the talking for you.
but I think I see a lot of the people, because I did go on and actually kind of do some research before I went to Kickstarter, because I was thinking, okay, well, I'll have a look into this and see, because I've never done it before. But I mean, I'd done it once before with someone else. I'd helped them out editing a video, but I hadn't been part of actually setting up the campaign. So I thought I'll go on and have a look. And I found that most of the people who were successful for funding horror movies through there already had a substantial amount of short films on like their YouTube channel or a website that people could watch. And I only had 2, and they're 2 that are not available for people to watch. They're just, if I'm being honest, those 2 short films I made were more of a practice, and I was just wanting to practice the art of filmmaking. That's also my first short film was a crime one, and my second was a horror. The first one ended up at being 11 minutes long. The second one ended up being about just under 3 minutes, I think it was. But I learned a lot from doing those 2 short films, which I think is a very important thing for people to do. Just because you're making shorts, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be successful with them, but you will learn a lot whilst you're making them. And the first one, I learned how to budget, which is budget and schedule is what I learned in the first one. The second one, I learned how to use, how to work with physical effects properly, because I knew that when it came time to actually making a feature film, because I obviously wanted to make a feature film, that it would all be practical effects, no CGI. And so I used the second one to get that experience. So I'm proud of the short films, but they'll never really be publicly available for people to watch. They did play at a couple of film festivals. The second one played at a horror festival in Vegas, and the first one played at a couple of in the UK. But they were just good learning tools. But my point is that a lot of these guys on Kickstarter had this background and stuff, and people would go on and be like, "Oh, really cool! I like your style. I know what I'm going to get. So here's some money for your project that you're doing now." Whereas I didn't have that before. So it's another. So
it doesn't preclude, because the first one didn't succeed. And once again, people are afraid of trying because of failure. But because the first one failed doesn't mean it's going to stop you in the future. You've learned a few lessons. Move on. That's a good wee segue, actually, because we just got a question there from Wills34 on Twitch. What do you recommend for getting your film into a film festival?
It depends at what level you want to be. I mean, to really, if you're making a small film and you just want some people to see it, there's a lot of film festivals out there that you'll be able to get played at simply because they want content. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I just mean that's just, people are always looking stuff to film the film festival. If you're looking to get your film festival into a big film festival, like a really big film festival like Cannes or Sundance, and it's just a short film, it'd be good to hire a sales agent or someone who has contacts with the film festival. There are companies, and there's one specific company that's really good at it, and I can't remember the name off the top of my head, and a friend of mine used it. But the company is so prestigious in that sense that you will submit your film to their website, they'll watch it. If they like it, they will help you get into a film festival. Now, obviously, you have to pay them, but still, they'll only do it if they personally like the film as well. So in order to answer, it just depends on what level you want to play at, basically. There's a film festival for everything out there. If you go on Film Freeway, the middleman website that most filmmakers use to submit their films to film festivals, you'll see I think it's on the left side, you can filter all the different types of film festivals from genres to, they go down to like film festivals that are based around race and sexuality and so many different things. So, you know, there's always a film festival for anything that you make out there.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Do you think that's maybe the way forward? Like, you're talking about the way cinema is at the moment and the whole problem of streaming. And once again, with any new technology, the human race tends to go, you know, and just doesn't know how to deal with it. So I think, we saw it with VHS actually when it came out. People lost their minds, you know, you're going to have everything in your house and no filter, blah, blah, blah. And people went crazy over that. And we've seen it with the internet, because I always differentiate between when the internet came out and when social media, because they're two different phases, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
And
definitely.
we've seen it with streaming. That was originally people going to unplug from cable. In fact, when cable came out from terrestrial TV, I mean, we've seen the battle, because obviously the big corporates don't want to rock. They just want everything to stay the same, and they have their same model because they don't want to use their imagination because they have none. And they always fight to bring it back in, and then that's where the strife happens, you know. And they always stamp it in, because the minute independent creators get a chance to go, right, we don't need you, people can have this as an alternative, they always find a way to start making it more difficult. And we're seeing it now even with streaming. It used to be easy to get your stuff up, but now it can't be seen unless you're paying somebody to advertise it. You know, it's
it's a lot. Well, again, I guess it gets a lot back to self-promotion and just it's just a different form of networking at the end of the day, really, isn't it? And unfortunately, I've never been that good at networking, whether it was face-to-face or online. It should be easier online because you can lie very easily, but I'm not even good at that either. I think it's just networking at the end of the day, and getting yourself seen. And it really is just truly right place, right time, most of the time, you know. You can be really talented and have something really great to show someone. But if you just don't show to that right person at the right time, then it just doesn't get seen. And that's really unfortunate. But
that's always been the way with entertainment. There's always that element. But should that be for a reason for people not to try?
Oh, no, God, no.
People get caught up with this, because that's actually part of one of the themes of your movie, which you wanted to talk about. This whole idea of the social media narcissist that just needs instant gratification, and that, you know, just takes you down a certain path, which you're going to explore, obviously, in the movie, which it's quite an intriguing premise, I think.
Yeah, no, you shouldn't be put. I mean, first of all, if you're making anything, you should just be making it because you want to make it anyway. I mean, obviously, I didn't think I'm going to make a film just for the fun of it, because there's money involved. We're going to have to pay somebody back. But, you know, you are making it because you want to make it. And if you're lucky enough to find somebody else to fund it, which I was, then it's a lot less stressful because of that. But if you're making something purely because you want it to be seen and you need the gratification from people telling you that it's great, then it's going to be a lot harder, I think. Or not harder, I think it's just going to be more stressful, because that's what you're aiming for. If you just happen to make something, you like it, and people see it, and they tell you that, then it's a lot easier that way. And, you know, nothing might come of this movie that I make, or it might make a splash in some way. I you know, no one really knows, because, like you said, it could just get lost in the sea of, you know, thousands of movies that seemingly get released every week now on any of the hundreds of streaming services that now exist, or, you know, the official ones, unofficial ones, or people's YouTube channels, or there's all these channels where you can do short films. And so it's just, there's a lot of stuff out there. There was a time when we had 4 TV channels.
Yeah, do you remember when Channel 5 came in? It was like, oh, we're entering the golden age. Oh, we're getting another TV channel.
I did. I was excited because they were going to put Natural Born Killers on, and no one had put that on TV before.
Good. Back in the day, I don't know. Do we really have too much of a good thing now? Has it become bloated?
I don't think it's become bloated. I think it's just become difficult to find. That's all. Because you have access to everything so easily, you don't want to pick something so quickly. Whereas before, you know, you go to the VHS store when we were younger, and, you know, they'd have a lot. There'd be thousands of movies in some of those shops.
Oh yeah, I remember.
You just gravitate towards one because of a cover, mostly in the horror section. And there was a couple of shops close to me where they had like the kind of illegal section, I guess, where all the video nasties were. They weren't meant to have, but they were.
Oh, the password. Remember this one, right? She went there and you said "Merry Christmas." And that's like the Christmas card thrown to the counter, and on the Christmas card was all the video nasties.
Okay.
And what it was mate, squatties from Germany. That was the biggest, I don't know, traffic route of smuggling stuff in the UK. It was brilliant.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
kind of lucky because my dad's from the Netherlands, so we used
Mhm.
to go over there on holiday, and you could just buy the stuff really easily in video stores there and bring it back. So they just used to do that.
Just all these suitcases just full. It's like, and they didn't have the hard cases in. It was all soft. It's like, oh, don't, careful, the rattle.
Oh, I remember one time coming back. What was it? I had in my suitcase had what was it? Cannibal Holocaust, Nightmare City, and what's it called? The other disaster movie, The House at the Edge of the Park, which was meant to basically kind of be another Last House on the Left type movie. What's the dude's name? I can't remember the guy's name. It's in it now. But yeah,
the director of Cannibal Holocaust was taken to court and had to prove it was fake, and you're like, really? People
yeah,
crazy.
There's a really good book about Ruggero Deodato and his entire like film career. Oh, it's right here. Wait, I'm going to show it to you.
That's convenient.
It is convenient.
Wasn't staged.
If you like Italian horror, this is an amazing book. It's just all about his movies. It's really good. It's called. Yeah, so it's I mostly watch now, or have been for probably at least the last 10 years. Like the majority of films I watch are I love Italian horror, especially from kind of
Dario Argento. He's 88 years of age. He's another movie coming out this year.
Yeah, it came out. Dark Glasses.
I thought it was I thought it was September, October time it was coming out.
No, I saw it a couple of months ago. I think maybe 2 or 3 months ago. It's another giallo. Essentially, It's a bit more of a modern day giallo. It's a bit more like a slasher, I guess, than kind of one of his old school giallos. It's actually all right. It's better than some of the other movies he brought up before that in kind of a more modern day environment. I quite enjoyed it. There's some good bits in it. It's well worth a watch anyway. I'd say.
Yeah. Last Argento one was Dark Glasses. I watched.
Oh, that's it. That's the one I'm talking about. Sorry.
Is that the one? No. He's another one coming out.
Oh, I didn't know that. Sorry.
That's right. Yeah, he's another one coming out. Yeah, that was
exclusive.
Yeah, that was Dark Glasses. That was a fun movie actually.
No, I did enjoy it. It's some directors get to a point where they're just making films. But it's daft, but it's fun and it's a bit gory, and I like that. But a lot of the old
not
ones
just jumping on a trope. There's a creative, and I think it doesn't. If you've got that creative spark in you, you just don't want to stop. It's like you said, if you're creating something for the joy of it, money, fame, retirement doesn't get in the way. You just, I've got an opportunity to create a thing again and crack on.
I think so, yeah. I think with a lot of it. I mean, I think with now, it's definitely back then. I don't think that was the case with the Italians because a lot of them were technically guns for hire. They got the financing from like Germany and Japan because those countries just wanted an influx of gory stuff, and the Italians were very good at making it. But now I think, very much so. Well, especially if you are Dario Argento, you've got all that history behind you. You can probably just go out and make a movie because it's not like Dark Glasses didn't look like it broke the bank with the budget. But it looked like he wanted to make a movie, so he made a movie, which is cool. And very happy to watch a new Argento movie.
Okay, yeah, I did review it. Yeah, I did the review. Yeah, a lot of fun. I'm all for it, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Talking of which, let's talk about some of your stuff because that's why we're here. We're sitting spend the whole stream promoting everybody else who doesn't need it. But your latest project, The Blade Cuts Deeper. What you've said on your website, you plan to shake things up with the slasher genre. So, with regards to the slasher genre, what tropes still work and what are the ones that need to be refreshed? Do you think, in your opinion?
I don't think there's anything wrong with any of the tropes or anything that needs to be refreshed. I think it's with any horror movie, it's all about setting, and about who you choose to play the character. I mean, any movie really. It's movies work because not just because you've got a great story, but because obviously you've chosen the right location to shoot it in, you've chosen the correct actors, you've chosen the right DP to work with who's going to give you that lighting and the sound guy, and absolutely the special effects guys are going to deliver on that. So I don't think it's really a problem with the tropes. I think it's more... I was trying to say this before, but I'm really trying to think of a really nice way to say this that doesn't offend people that do stuff like this. It's basically, I think movies nowadays look like they've been made by content creators. and there's no real, like, they don't think about what they're doing. It's just they're so used to just putting stuff out. Like a movie's got an idea, let's just make it and put it out, and let's not really think about it that much. We know the template and we'll just do it. Like you can get
like a paint by numbers, you get that sort of
yeah, pretty much. Which obviously that happened in the 80s, but still those people, because you had to shoot on film, because you probably knew it was going to the cinema, you had to make a certain slight different effort in order to complete the movie. Whereas now you could be, well, you know what, we need slasher movies. Here's, let's say, 50 grand to go make a slasher movie, which I could make a movie 50 grand, no problem with a slasher movie. But you know, you could film it really quickly, but if you're not from that background and you don't really understand horror that well, which some of them don't, because they just want to make stuff, and they just, if someone's giving them some money or they just want to be seen, then they don't understand how to fully use the tropes properly, in the sense of, you know, they don't know where to place the camera or how to build the tension up. And that, so I think there's nothing wrong with the tropes. I think, to answer your question, I think people just misuse the tropes or just misrepresent how the tropes should be shown in the movie.
There's someone I talked to, Zach, and their film company, you know, it's a small distribution company, but they're given like a week, including editing, to make a movie.
Well, that's that. I mean, I
like
felt
they're given money,
days.
and they're basically given 7 days, if that, and even at like day 6, they're pushing them to get it finished and into post production and out. That's
insane, because like I barely made the 14-day shoot for my entire. That's just 14 days to film a feature. For me, was like that was intense, because I know Quentin, who was in my movie but also worked on another movie in Macau, he was in another independent, it was a low budget film but more money than I had, and they had, I think, basically 30 days, which I would have killed for 30 days to make a movie. That'd be great, but doing that in 7 days? No, it's like I spent months in pre-production, you know, making sure I got the right locations, the right people, pulling in a lot of favors from people that like done commercial stuff with, you know. And then 14 days of photography.
I thought you said you weren't good at networking.
Well, this is over the years from work, from jobs. I think, and then I'm still in post production now, because I'm having to do the movie in my spare time whilst I'm doing other stuff, obviously, because I got to pay my mortgage and things like that. So because I'm not getting paid to make this movie. The movie had a budget, but none of that budget went to me, because I wanted all the money to go, you know, on the screen and be a part of the movie. So yeah, I can't imagine making a movie in 7 days. That sounds like hell, mostly, doing that.
Yeah, but that's, you know, and that's why I think people need to understand crowdfunding a bit more, where the audience directly fund the movie, and you have, you know, a pipeline, and that's where it's a whole range of things, like exposure, people getting to know you, trust the brand, where they actually feel comfortable enough to put hands in their pockets to directly fund you.
Yeah.
Because when you go to an entity, you're just really a cog in the machine. And like you said, it's just about content, getting it out. And that's where Hollywood is. You know what I mean? That's where people look to Hollywood as if that's the epitome, and it's the worst thing, I think.
Well, I think
all souls gone out of their movies. There's no love there anymore.
Well, I think it's just very... Well, like the film industry is, I mean, obviously we're led pretty much by the Americans for the film industry for a long time. And obviously it goes in cycles, usually by decade. But I think the stuff now that they've been producing it's lasted over a decade, and there's a problem with that. And maybe there's going to be a change sometime soon. And some, you know, basically we've had a bunch of superhero movies, haven't we, now for at least 10 years and probably more. Which, you know, was fine for beginning for some people, because, you know, I was never really into superheroes. I never read superhero comic books. It wasn't really my thing. But I saw a couple of them when they came out. And, you know, if they came out around summertime when blockbusters were meant to come out, that's fine. That's cool. That's the kind of time of the year for them. But now they're, you know, released almost all year round, and now they've got their own shows on Disney, and that's where a lot of the attention goes, isn't it? And obviously it'll fade out eventually, because everything does. It's just, what will it fade into? Hopefully it will fade into another kind of golden age of cinema, where you've got more indie orientated people, you know, kind of leading the way. And it looked like it was going to happen, didn't it, a few years ago when Ari Aster brought Hereditary out, and you thought, okay, someone's new on the scene, and maybe a bunch of people are going to follow, but they didn't. It's not like in the 90s where you had like Robert Rodriguez, Quentin Tarantino, Steven Soderbergh, and a bunch Kevin Smith and a bunch of others who all kind of came around with some films together and they kicked off something for about 10 years. People aren't seemingly concentrating on I guess the names of the people behind the movies anymore. They're more concentrating on the IP itself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a problem too. Not that I want all the attention, but I think if you're concentrating all that effort on the IP, then that's what's always going to be at the forefront.
Mm-hmm. But horror's always been different anyway.
Well, horror always survives. Horror's always
been its own thing, and it's just always trundling. In fact, I've made the argument that the horror kept the cinema doors open over the last year, in particular, when everything else has been falling apart. Horror movies have just been trundling along, and horror movies do their thing. Horror creators do their thing. Not getting too drawn into the nonsense going on, and the end fighting and all that kind of guff. We've been lucky enough that we're all weirdos, and we stay away from that because we embrace who we are. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah, well no, horror just always seems to find different avenues for people to access them. That's all. So if they're not on the cinema, they're on streaming or they're on physical media, or maybe somewhere you still go see kind of like limited showings on some cinemas and stuff like that. But yeah, horror's always seemingly fine. It just kind of reinvents itself a little bit every so often.
Yeah, and that's cool because that's what we want. I don't want horror ever to become mainstream because I think it would just lose its magic then.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's really interested in making horror mainstream because it's always funny. I always find it funny when the Oscars come around, and I never watch Oscar movies because they don't interest me. But you see, the movies that go up for Oscars generally nowadays, you don't really hear about those movies until the Oscars are coming up. It's not like they market them, for like big exposure on the cinema. They're just a prestige thing to get some awards so that whoever can get more money at some point.
We got a copyright claim because we were at a guest on, we're reviewing an American Werewolf in London.
Yeah,
and of course it won an Oscar for best makeup and effects. So we're just talking like as we're doing now. I just called up looking for the details, and there's a video clip of that presentation where they brought on Vincent Price.
Yeah,
5 minutes, 41-year-old clip. And straight away, they leapt on us. Ampus just went, copyright. I think, really? You're that protective of an old clip of not even the full ceremony, and we were discussing it as it was playing.
I think that's not what drew me to horror, but it's certainly what makes me stay loving horror all the time now, is that like horror fans are the most forgiving people when it comes to movies because they just want to watch horror.
I think we understand as well the limitations.
Well, yeah, there are, but even then, there's still stuff that I'll watch and think, why am I watching this? But it's so much fun to watch. I can't stop watching this, So it's it's just
that's part of the fun.
Well, that is part of the fun. Is I don't know if you remember this, but around the mid to late 90s. And possibly early 2000s, when VHS was still kind of around, there was a company that used to release movies at really low budget stuff from around the world in England called Screen Edge, and I had a bunch of movies by them. So they had movie releases like The Dead Next Door, Ozone, Transgression. They even released what are their names? Who are the guys that make South Park? They're very, very famous.
Oh, Trey Parker and
they released their very first movie, which is called Alfred Packer the Musical, which is about about cannibals. And they had a lot of cool movies on there. And I've actually lost my train of thought now while I was telling you this. There was a reason why I was
tangents. We love them. Yeah, that's what this all about. We love our tangents.
That's it. Sorry, Screen Edge. So yeah, they just they released all these movies, and some of them were really good. Like very talented filmmakers. You could tell are going to go on and make a really good other good movies, and other films where you're like, I don't know why this guy's making movies, but you know what? I really like it. Like there was one called it was a British film. I cannot remember what it was called now, but it was set somewhere outside of Manchester, and I think there was some kind of disease going round, and it was infecting the cows, and people are having to rush round and kill all the cows in England. But they were blowing them up with bazookas, but the bazookas were obviously made of like old toilet rolls and stuff stuck together. But the effects of the cows exploding was just, it made it well worth watching the movie. Just it was like Bad Taste, but had about a tenth of the budget of Bad Taste.
Well, we're reviewing that on Thursday. We're doing a whole myself and Laura, one of the authors, is we're just doing the whole Peter Jackson back catalogue, because before, people only seem to know him for Lord of the Rings, but we forget that he's a horror movie creator first and foremost.
Oh yeah,
and his first 6 or 7 features are all horror movies. And I remember the video store, like the Bad Taste poster. I think that was one of my more inspiring ones. That just got me.
It's just the guy going like that, isn't it?
Yeah, just the alien. Yeah. At the end of the movie, it's actually Peter Jackson himself. And I'm coming to get you, you bastards. Oh, great times.
Yeah, that and Brain Dead. I really like Brain Dead.
Oh, I did that. Was that last week or the week before? Oh my god, that movie. That is just gore on steroids. And I was actually breathless after watching it. It's been so many years, because it didn't give you a break. It just ramped up, and you're like, how the hell could this escalate anymore? Oh shit! It's right up to the end, till the very last scene where they fall off the top of the house. Like, that just taking in that sort of trajectory. Brilliant.
It's a great film. It was great. Yeah, I saw a few of his films. I mean, I remember The Frighteners coming out. I don't think I ever saw. Is it Meet the Feebles? I don't think I've
Meet
ever
the
seen
Feebles.
that.
The animated one. We're doing that. Like I said, we're going to cover that whole back catalogue. Looking forward to it. But then
Cool.
that's better. I mean, people need to, I think, revisit that sort of stuff and remember that you don't need 300 million to make a movie.
No,
and
you
then
don't.
having to make $1 billion just to break even. You don't need that to be enjoyable.
Yeah, I think one other thing that could be talked about as well is that people feel the need to make horror movies look a little bit too slick nowadays, which just doesn't really suit it. Horror movies are generally meant to be quite raw. I'm not going to say grungy, but like raw.
There's
intense.
a grittiness,
Yeah, the grittiness, obviously, because that's what they're meant to be. They're meant to look like you could possibly be watching a documentary, say, or some footage that someone's just filmed, but obviously there's production behind it. Because I remember sitting down and watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the first time when I was 12. It was a VHS, and watching it and thinking I didn't know what I was really watching, and it just seemed like it was really happening. I had the same feeling when I watched Last House on the Left for the first time as well. It kind of plays out more like there's really stupid parts in some of it, especially with the sheriff and this deputy and stuff in the middle. But some parts just shot so much like a documentary, and you kind of lose yourself in it. And you're thinking, wow, this is really messed up, and it looks real. Some parts just because you get so invested in what's going on, and I don't think you get that anymore now because of how slick things look. And you could blame like digital filmmaking partly for that, but then I've used a digital camera to shoot my movie, but depending on how you shoot the film and your lens selection and stuff like that, you can basically add a little bit of texture and depth to it and not have it look like you're watching like a HD TV show, which I think is, you see so many horror movies nowadays I start watching on like say Prime or something like that, and then I'm put off within the first 10 minutes simply because it just looks
the classic,
so nice.
It's now the drone shot. Everything starts off with a drone shot.
Yeah, and it's bright, it's
all
bright.
super
There's no
crystal
depth in the
clear.
lighting. Yeah, it's just there's just no depth in the lighting. Everything's clear. It looks really slick, like it's like just a primetime TV show, and it shouldn't look like that.
What I personally miss, and I think you should start bringing that back. You did a wee bit of action in your featurette on the website. Links in the description, folks, by the way. But any horror movie come out, you didn't hear from the actors or the director. What you heard from was the special effects team. And you kind of got behind them because they were the mad scientists. And what you got were remember the little featurettes used to appear? Like when it was Nightmare on Elm Street, very rarely did you get an interview with Robert Englund. It was always a special effect. Oh, this is how we've done this. And you just got these people cackling about how they made a particular effect work. And they're talking about their secret recipes for their blood and their secret recipe for brains. And that had you more excited for the movie because you picked up that gleefulness. And that's what I'm talking about, the creativity for the art's sake. You got invested in the artist. does that need to come back? Should we start showing a wee bit more of that?
Well, the thing is, though, I think there's a lot of stuff out there like that, but again, everything's just. It is. You're right. Like you said earlier, it's flooded, isn't it? There's just so much stuff. It's hard to find and kind of keeping your focus on one thing as well, where you're just kind of scrolling through things really quickly too. I mean, I remember when what was it? Remember when the what was that show? It's like they did 1 year special Halloween Ghost Watch. It's like the 90s.
Was that on the Jimmy Savile Club's channel?
It was.
They were pretending like it was a paranormal thing, and
in a haunted house, and they were covering it live on the news.
Yeah,
and there's a big event because it was something to lead up to for Halloween, and horror fans obviously were very excited about stuff like that. And then obviously during Halloween TV, that's when you knew on TV you were at least guaranteed to see a couple of horror movies. But everything is so easily available now that there's no special occasions left. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
because that's you go to a horror groups or social media sites that's dedicated to horror. Actually, last week I was talking to the creator of Slasher TV or the Slasher app, which is social media network for horror fans and creators. But then everyone's talking about Halloween all year round, so people aren't segregating, not reining themselves in. But that kind of you're kind of touching this weird movie, I think, the sort of premise behind it, because everyone on social media, they're trying to get those clicks, so they're looking for the popular hashtags. Halloween's a popular hashtag, so everyone's jumping on the Halloween bandwagon all year round. People aren't waiting their turn, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think in general, like going a bit deeper into society, if you want to say, people that just need to be a bit more mindful and just live in the present moment and not be. I love Halloween and I wait for it to come around, and I love horror, and obviously I watch horror movies all year because I watch other genres as well, but horror is the main genre that I like to watch. But that doesn't take away from when Halloween comes about, because other certain things happen, like haunted houses pop up and things like that, so I can enjoy it. But then I also really enjoy Christmas, and I'm not a religious person, and I'm not celebrating the birth of Jesus. I'm giving.
No, but it's that whole coming together, family, middle of winter, bright lights.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So it's just I think it's great, because when I was a teenager, it would have been cool to have had apps where you could talk about horror movies with people all the time. But at the same time, I'm kind of happy I didn't, because it meant that when I came across a piece of news or a magazine in the stand, that it was really special, because it was like a diamond in the rough for me, just finding that. It's just, when I came across a new horror magazine, and the horror magazines came and went in the 90s quite quickly, some of them, but you see a new one pop up, you buy it, and then, maybe 3 or 4 issues later it got cancelled because it didn't make any money for whatever reason. But it'd be cool because you'd find certain things and it'd be like a little bit of treasure that you found. But now it's just, I'll open up Chrome or whatever browser you're using, type in blah, and I've got all the horror information that I need, which is really cool because I love reading about horror information, but it's not special that much anymore.
Yeah. The thing is, a lot of those horror websites are mostly fluff pieces, not really much information. I've found when I'm just trying to find, okay, what movies are coming out this month, just so I can, go to the cinema, for example, or, plan my reviews. It's very hard just to get that simple list of, okay, here's what's coming out. And you get all these fluff pieces and I don't know, it's like school kids writing essays as opposed to like news articles. And,
well, no, you're right there.
I get put off. I've stopped looking at them. It annoys me.
Yeah, you see a lot of the same stuff being covered as well on these sites. Like I don't want to say site names, but we contacted a lot of sites for the movie to see if they were interested in promoting true independent horror cinema, and a couple of them did. Starburst were really nice. They covered us, as well as the Dark Side, like horror magazine, actually did something in their print edition about the movie, which was really, I bought that because that's a souvenir now, which is cool. But there's a lot who say they champion independent cinema, but didn't even respond or just gave an outright no. And you go on their websites and they're actually just advertising a comic book movie instead, which is weird because they're a horror movie website. And
I've tried to find articles from some of them because we do a monthly wrap up and just horror news, and trying to find decent horror news and amongst all this guff, it's really frustrating.
Yeah, There's only one really good horror website news as far as I'm concerned, and not that I seem to be plugging other people on this interview, but like I really like.
No, this is the thing. You're
well, bloody disgusting.
This could just be sitting going,
website.
buy my stuff.
Yeah.
We want to talk to you. And that's the whole point of being on here, to get ideas and opinions. That's how people get to know you.
Well, I like the horror website bloodydisgusting.com. They have generally good sources of news and like news that I want to read, and also they've made a fair few of their own movies. I actually like the VHS series. I think they're a good series of movies.
I'm not a fan of found footage. In fact,
sorry,
people keep trying to stitch me up in this channel. They keep on calling, watch this one, it will change your mind. And then they watch this god awful movie. I'm like, jeez, why you do that to me?
I'm a massive fan of found footage films, but the majority of them are terrible. They are, and I'll fully admit that. But I just really like the idea. One day, another one's going to come along that is just fantastic, and I haven't seen any that I really like. I mean, apart from when the Blair Witch Project came out, which was really good to go and see at the cinema, and I do like the VHS movies.
I like Deadstream. That was a cool one.
The which one?
Deadstream.
Oh, Deadstream. Yeah, okay.
So that was it's basically from an influencer, and it was the most believable one because the way they set up the cameras and that, and he actually made it believable. Yeah. Where I hate the fact, why are you filming? You know what I mean? Someone's going around with a camera. Like, why would you be filming right now? That camera would be on the ground 20 minutes ago as you're screaming and running. Of course,
yeah. I mean, and there are ones that don't make any sense but are still really good. Like, what's the zombie one that I can't think of the name of now? They've made a sequel to it as well. I think even Dimensions released them. They're British zombie films, and it's a found footage. It makes no sense really because the first one is a British found footage zombie movie. So who's found the footage and is playing it to us? This is after the zombie apocalypse, and the zombies are still there. So I don't understand who's found the footage and edited it all together. It doesn't make any sense. But either way, it's a really good film that I cannot remember the name of off the top of my head. What is it called? Oh gosh, you know what?
No, that's the thing. I think there needs to be. I think they go too much into the first person aspect, where I think a found footage film to me should be from a third person, somebody playing the part of finding the footage and playing it back.
Yeah,
I'm giving you a chance to look up, by the way. While
I found it. Sorry, because it bugged me. I couldn't remember the name.
Yeah, that's why I was going to just waffle here for a second.
I appreciate that. Thanks for that. You caught on to that very quickly.
We have done this before. Trust me.
It's called The Zombie Diaries.
The Zombie Diaries? Never heard of it.
Yeah. So they made a sequel as well, which I don't think was actually called The Zombie Diaries 2, but you probably can find it under that. But The Zombie Diaries the first one is quite low budget, and then the second one I think got financed by Dimension when Bob Weinstein was running that, so it actually got a bit of a budget. But they're cool movies and they're well made.
I warn you now, if I review this, okay, and absolutely hate it, I'm calling you names on stream.
Well, we can argue over it live if you want. It's fine.
Yeah, I'll just call you because, God, the worst one. Cameron stitched me up. He made me watch Underwater. He said, "That's okay, you'll love it." The flipping wooden plank herself, Kristen Stewart. And I just spent the whole stream while I reviewed it, calling them all the names of the day. That was my stream. Why'd you make me watch it? What? You stitched me up. And I just went off. I might have taken it a bit too personally, but it's not part of it. But that's the fun of movies, though, isn't it? What I don't understand, and it's part of this whole nature of you either have to be for it or against it. And if you're not like exactly 100% the same things, then you can't be friends anymore, or you can't talk to each other. And it's actually got down to movies like Hereditary was a perfect example. If you liked the movie, you were okay by a certain camp, but if you didn't like the movie, you're a horrible anti-horror, blah 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 blah. And it just got so dumb.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think that's been the case, hasn't it, as well, for a long time. You've always got people who either want to be on, people who are in the middle, people on either sides, the extreme, whatever it is. I'll admit that when I was younger, especially in my teens, if I liked something, if I disliked something and you liked it, yeah, I was one of those annoying people who would have a go at you and say, why do you like that? And then list off all my reasons why you shouldn't like it, which is, that's fine for a kid.
There's different reasons.
Now I shouldn't do that.
But there's one reason going, okay, here's why I liked it, and maybe consider these ideas. But what I don't agree with is you like something I don't like, so therefore you're a horrible person and I can't be your friend. And also I'm going to contact your employer, your friends, I'm going to get you, this whole cancel nonsense. Or if you don't like something, then you're a horrible person, so I'm going to do exactly the same thing. And you have to be in our our camp, and it's just like, grow up.
Yeah, well, yeah, you definitely do need to
That's
grow up, but I think also you need to realize some people rely on that. That's the thing, though, because there are some people out there who have such a direct relation with their audience, and that's how they guarantee their income as well. Because like they're self-sufficient with some of the things that they make, that they really have to stay on the good side of their audience the whole time. Because if they lose their audience, then they simply lose their revenue stream as well, because they don't work for a studio, say. So if you're stuck in that situation, that must be really, really hard. I'm
Would that
not.
not be worse than working for a studio though?
Well, I guess it depends on how much of a narcissist you are. Really, I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, if you, I don't know. That's I've never really thought about it that much.
I
But
never thought about it from that angle because I'm always like my stance as more independent creators that we're not owned by this group of grey people who actually don't have a creative bone in their body, and they just want to rinse and repeat whatever the current thing is until they beat it to death, and then they start a new thing and they beat it to death. Being trapped in that cycle, I imagine, is pretty horrible. Plus, it affects the storytelling, and it never affects. But I never thought about it from the other aspect of purely independent that you've got a hardcore group of an audience, and if they're reasonable people, fine. But if they're maniacs,
well,
you
again,
know,
it probably depends on what you're making as well. I mean, any type of art form, whether it's films or music, or like you're an author, or even if it's comic books or whatever it is, there are obviously people who make their money by going to like smaller cons and stuff like that and selling their stuff directly to their fans, which is a cool way to do it, and that's not something I'm against. That
no, that's what I'm saying about that. That's what
yeah.
I strive for. I think that should be the way. Smaller independent groups or loosely affiliated consortiums, if that makes sense, to pool resources to make movies,
Yeah,
and
of
those
course.
can come together, fall apart, and then that way you've got more freedom and ideas, and you can, if a part of that consortium breaks off and something new comes in briefly, there's a new set of ideas rather than this just rigid, here's the corporate stamp that has to go on everything and it must all fit into this box.
Yeah.
And I think that's a killer of creativity.
No,
But I never
I
considered, until
agree.
you brought it up, I never considered it from the other aspect of.
Well, you have to think as well, for all the people, say like you, that are doing that already, there's going to be those few others who deal with probably quite extreme subjects in whatever art form they're doing, and because of that, they have some quite extreme followers. And I'm sure those extreme followers can be quite volatile. So you just have to be careful, I guess, with that. I'm sure you'll be fine. I don't think anyone's gonna be some volatile follower for you doing anything. But
Oh no, people know what I'm about. The ones that come on that, I just don't have no time for that sort of nonsense. So I don't know what I would do if I. Have you ever had one of those fans?
No, because
I've
still,
had
like,
some strange folks. I've been, like I said, I've been doing this for 3 years now. It's not my first project, if that makes sense. But this current, podcast, and you get some really interesting people just pop out of the radar, and the proper like creepily latch on. Now I've been lucky enough. I just don't. I don't need that adoration. I don't need people to adore me. I don't need that. I like these conversations. I like meeting people. I like networking. I like discussing horror. This is my outlet to discuss a genre that I love. So I don't need fans. I'd rather have people that come on and enjoy what we do. I'd rather have friends, if that makes sense. But yeah, I've had a couple of times that, and you can almost tell that there's foam at the mouth on the other end of the internet where they're sitting. And it's quite disturbing. You're like, oh, no, go away. No. I'd sooner shut this all down and not do anything than have like 10 of those people. One's enough when they pop up now and again.
I guess I'm kind of looking forward to. I mean, again,
it is a stamp of, It is a bit of a badge of honor. Let's be honest. You've made it when you got that sort of. When you get one of those folks, you're like, whoa.
Well, as my bar is really low for my life, in the sense that all I want to be able to do is to survive making movies. If that means that I just make minimum wage doing it, I'm cool with that, because at least I'm doing something that I love. And for minimum wage, that's fine. So with that, I'll probably have some kind of following, obviously, because you need some kind of following to an audience to sell the movies to. And you might get a few kind of strange people like saying stuff to you, and I can live with that. It's fine. You'll probably get some really fun remarks. But obviously, if the movie or a movie that I make becomes more successful and seen by more wider people, and and that's when like obviously the larger percentages of people kind of qualify for more let's just say crazy people coming out of the woodwork. I'm kind of really looking forward to that, to kind of see what kind of
you just want to see what it's like. You're kind of like, aha, yes, go on, yay, just sort of yay. I have a private group that anybody contributes to the show. We all sort of put our heads together. That's how I get people coming back and so on. That's how I keep in touch. And every time I've had one of those sort of folks, I just post a screenshot in the group and like, here, check this one out. So, can anyone beat that? And somebody else will put, oh, here, check this one out. I think that's the way of dealing with it too. You have to just, don't get frightened. Just go, all right, okay. And share it with sort of like-minded people that get it. So you can sort of say, well, if we know that hurdle, I'm still here. I've still survived, if that makes sense, and carrying on.
Oh yeah, no, completely. I think until I truly experience it myself, I have no idea what my reaction is going to be. But if it happens soon, I'll let you know.
Yeah, talking of a niche group that might have some slightly unhinged people, what do you think it attracts people? Because it's sort of covered in this movie as well. What does it attract people to the sort of true crime genre or true crime stories? I personally don't get it. I'm like yourself. I like escapism, so I don't like docu series as we're out there on like serial killers. Not that people are obsessed with, but we think it is attracts people to that sort of thing.
I think it's the same thing where people slow down at a traffic accident. They're just curious. They want to see something a bit macabre, even though they don't want to admit it. That's they're just curious about what they're not experiencing in their own life, and not that they want to experience it, but just there's probably some kind of a bit of an adrenaline rush that goes along with thinking about what if I did that? What if I basically had the balls to do it, but I'm obviously not going to because it's wrong and it's terrible. So I think that's pretty much what it is most of the time. It's the same reason why. I mean, I like escapism. It's not that I don't want any reality in my films.
No, it's all about balance. We're not all about this. Do you think do people have to qualify that now because everyone's so absolute? Like, I am for this, I am against this. It's my 100% total opinion on everything. We can't have any nuance anymore.
I think yeah, I think so. yeah, I do. I really think you do. Yeah.
Like, you catch yourself going, oh yeah, but then they realize, why am I even thinking that? You're like, oh, that's right, because there's absolute maniacs out there who that's the one thing and they latch on that and that's all it can be. You're like, how do you experience life if you don't change it up a bit, or if you don't?
Well, I think they're just thinking that way because you've said something that they just disagree with, so that's fine. I think that's an easy way to determine as well who you can kind of target yourself to, because if you know these groups of people interpret what you said that way, you're like, well, okay, that's fine. I don't need to talk to you then, because obviously you're not the type of people I need to be talking to about this certain thing, because you have a completely different point of view. And it's not that you shouldn't talk to people who have a completely different point of view. In fact, you should, because you need to open up a conversation to try and understand why they think that way. But it just depends on the social situation or what you're doing that day. Obviously, if you want an easy day, just stay away. But if you're willing to, and you've got the patience and you want to maybe learn somebody else's point of view, even though you don't agree with it, that's always a good thing. Learn something new. You might even get a good storyline for a movie.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I just hate the way everyone's so even. It's because it's permeated now into movies. Like I said, Hereditary was a perfect example. You had to either like it or you had to either hate it, and you couldn't go, well, like this, but like that, but that bit was a bit stupid. You can't. You're not allowed to have that nuance anymore. You have to be in one camp or the other. And it's just, I think that's going to destroy creativity if it's allowed that. You're always going to have people like that, but if you let that dictate the conversation, and I prefer discourse and conversation as opposed to debate, because debate has to be a winner, and I'm not. What I mean.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I wonder though if that was really always the case. It's just that we all didn't have the means to view our opinions instantly to absolutely everybody in the world
at the same, in a matter of seconds, maybe.
Yeah, so maybe I've always been quite an opinion. I mean, not that I'm a loud person, but even when someone says something disagree, like everybody else, if I disagree, I disagree inside my head. But I'm very opinionated in that way. So everyone's always very opinionated. I just think.
Oh yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. We all have our,
easily accepted now. It's acceptable now to voice your opinions more than I think it just used to be, because also you kind of somewhat encouraged by obviously by companies, because that's how they make their bread and butter, by collecting all this information, but also because you're seen as in some ways like to promote yourself or to empower yourself, or there's a whole bunch of different reasons. But basically what I'm saying is that we are pretty much encouraged now to just talk and speak our mind all the time without when sometimes we should probably just think a little bit more before we type a message.
Yeah, take a pregnant pause and just go, is this a good idea? Or do I want to, like, or sometimes I'll see a poster or video or something, I just go straight to the comment section because I know it's going to be comedy gold. And not because I've got an opinion either way, it's just I know the sort of people it's going to be, what they're going to say, and most times it doesn't disappoint, and you're just like, but to get that invested that you feel you have to take part in it, and it's not going to change anything. That's the thing.
No, I think for some people it's just a momentary release, and it makes them feel better maybe for 5 or 10 seconds. That's about it.
But then reality comes back again.
Yeah, and at the expense of somebody else's feelings as well, which can be quite horrific for some people.
That's a good little segue, actually.
Oh, excellent. Happy to help.
Yeah, because is there a line that needs to be drawn? Because you're like I said, this film is themed on social media, on influencers, and is there a line that needs to be drawn where people prey on others' experiences to make themselves famous? Because I think that's something you're going to be dealing with in this movie.
I mean, it's kind of partially part of the film, yeah, sure. It's about a guy who's, I mean, he's the host of a true crime TV show, and obviously every TV true crime TV show has obviously the reenactment sections, and he uses those sections specifically to draw his audiences in. Mm-hmm. So they're always way overdrawn and over exploded versions of what actually might have happened in the crime anyway in real life. But but it's kind of like the advent of when say CNN or those 24-hour news cycles first started in America. They had a lot of boring news at first until they realized, no, we need to show more blood and guts, and then that'll get people, we'll get the ratings in then. And it's just, it can be the same with influencers now, not necessarily that it's blood and guts, but over exaggerating something that
just cranking things up, making
things more dramatic, which is basically what they should be doing in a movie, but they're just doing it.
But they're not. They're doing it in reality TV. I'll use that term very loosely.
Yeah. So everything's overblown, which is fine if you're making a movie, because that's what movies are for. But if making blog posts or little news pieces or whatever, it's not good, because it can hurts people's mental health a lot, which you just touched on in this film. One of the reasons why the person doing what they're doing in the movie is because of the way his wife's death has been reenacted within this true crime TV show, and it's affected him, psychologically, which is why he goes on a rampage essentially. So that is there.
There's one I can draw a comparison to. Did you ever hear about that wee girl years ago, Eliza Lamb?
The name rings a bell.
She was in Vegas, I think, and she was the one that ended up drowning in a tank at the top of the hotel.
I think I know the one. I know the one you mean. Yeah.
Right. Yes. So she was only a young girl. Pretty young girl too. Such a shame, but people couldn't figure out how she got up there and how she got herself locked in.
Was this the one where they saw footage of it going in and out of the elevator?
The elevator, yes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
And they didn't know whether she was seeing something right, but that's the story. Tragic story. But there's these two. I can only describe them as dipshits who went to make, I don't know, I think because I was looking at the story and there was a song made about it, and why YouTube sends you on a rabbit hole sometimes, and just happened to click on it. These two kids, they were only kids themselves, and they're all getting on over hyperbolic, and they're giggling and laughing, oh yes, and she did this and did that, and oh dude, we're here, dude, and you're just like, you disrespectful arseholes. That wee girl's family's probably watched this, or somebody that knows her gets made aware of it. And they're basically, it's like peeing in someone's grave.
No, I completely agree with what you're saying. I mean, and that's essentially what I'm saying in my movie, but nothing is said outright in my film, because I believe good horror movies have a message, but the message is in the background.
Yeah.
And it's up to you to figure out what it is, it's fine. But yeah, no, I completely agree with what you're saying. People simply taking advantage of other people's misfortunes to get clicks, and they monetize those clicks, and then that's how they make money. And that's a screwed up thing to do, obviously. But that's, again, you know where they got that from? They got that from mainstream media, because that's pretty much what they did for a long, long time. And people have just, with advent of technology, managed to figure out, well, you know, we can just do it ourselves now and just make up stupid stuff or reinvent things, and we can just make money from it instead of the companies doing it. And not that I agree with it, but no one should be doing it, whether it's a company or an individual.
Yeah, so that's the question. Should a line be drawn, or is that, you know, the people just need to self-regulate more? But if there's a way to make money, obviously people won't. How do we get people to go, yeah, maybe shouldn't be supporting this? It's a bit distasteful.
Well,
but then again, the horror genre as well, we're kind of all about being distasteful. How do we...
Yeah,
I've got my personal lines. Obviously, I won't, you know what I mean? If it's about somebody's real life, I don't think it should be done. You know what I mean? I don't believe in sensationalized, you know, real events. I love horror movies. I love the escapism. I love being taken somewhere else from that safe little bubble of, okay, this isn't going to happen. It's ridiculous. And you go along for the journey. But I don't know. How do it? Because it seems that either over-regulation, and that's where the censorship comes in, and it goes too far, and the people that regulate aren't interested in achieving a good aim. It's the power they get off on, so they're not, you know, I mean, there's too many bad faith actors. But
I think if you take that story for an example, if someone had looked at that and thinking, you know, what kind of the basic idea of what basically happened to her, if we could take that and make it into like a horror movie, but it's not obviously not about her, but we've taken some inspiration from it, because that's, you know, horror movies, or most movies, come from some real life inspiration, obviously.
Yeah, because that's also keeps it grounded, and that's what gets you.
So that's fine. But if you were to make, I would disagree, I guess. Oh no, I would disagree. I'm not guessing about.
Well, I wasn't making a point for or against. I'm saying, is there a, you know, what they would do when somebody's blatantly, you know, disrespecting somebody?
You just ignore it. That's all you can do. Unfortunately, I mean,
what people don't. The click and then the feed this beast.
They're always going to. I mean, if I had the answer to that, I would not be sitting here with you right now. I would be going to a company and telling them what the answer is, and making hundreds of millions of pounds, and then financing a couple of movies with that money.
Yeah, I suppose it's the eternal question, isn't it? It's just people are people.
Well, that's yeah, they are. It manifests in different ways over a period of time. That's just what will happen. And some people will watch it for a bit, and then I think will actually realize that what they're doing is fueling the fire, and then stop watching it. But then, obviously, more people just keep coming along, and those. So
it's like a cyclical thing.
Yeah, I think so. But those who stay to watch it all the time, well, that says a lot about them, you know.
Well, that's what I was asking about true crime. There are people who are dedicated to true crime that absolutely love it, and that's all they're interested in. And I don't get the mentality, because that's my line. That's where I don't enjoy horror content. You know, if it's too close to real life or about real life.
I see what you mean. Yeah, I mean, I do watch a lot of true crime stuff, and I find that it's good for me in the sense that it gives me a lot of inspiration for writing, and, you know, like ideas for characters and scenarios and situations. And also, yeah, I've been interested in true crime since I was like.
But I suppose that's the way writers, creators do research. So yeah, somebody's packaged it up for you. You know what I mean? Somebody's like, package the bundle. I can get it from a creative.
Well, no, it depends. Going back to what you've also said about like how they covered those two guys going to the hotel. Let's say that you can have a documentary come out about a horrific crime that happened, but it's respectful, and it gives you the information that you kind of interested in. And it tells you maybe why this person was the way they was. But then you have a documentary that comes out, and obviously they're just completely sensationalizing it. That's not even a word. And it's just purely made to get people to watch and make money, and it's disrespectful. So it's just down to how something is being represented, obviously, and the intentions of making that piece.
Fair one, because that's what this film's taking the stance from. You know, somebody's being disrespectful. He's, you know, done it to get clicks. Like, not even the body's not even cold, so to speak, and that's what sets off your main character.
Yeah, he's just. Yeah, that's. I mean, pretty much. Yeah. You got it right there. It's just. It's just. You know.
Could this be a subtle warning?
No, I don't think so. I'm too lazy.
Am I thinking more about it than you are? Am I being a typical nerd? This is what you gotta. This is what you gotta look forward to when you deal with audience members and people like me. It's just like, let's overthink this one aspect that you probably never even thought about. You're like, who are these people?
I think that the character in my movie, because there are two main characters essentially, the TV show and then the TV show host, who's the character's name is John Abbott, and then the killer, who in the script was just referenced as the maniac, although he's not really a maniac. I just enjoyed calling him a maniac in the script. That's all. He's a sad person who shouldn't be doing what he's doing, but I can kind of understand from a certain point of viewpoint after losing absolutely everything, that there's a breaking point for certain people, and not that obviously gives them the right to do what they do, but unfortunately there are people in real life who do reach a breaking point, and they can go one way, which is maybe go get some help, or they can go another way and completely snap and just go what we used to call postal. So so
that's part of the human condition. That's horror has always explored that. And I think that's why a lot of people are uncomfortable about the horror genre and pattern, because horror's always dealt with that. It's always dealt with, you can be a normal person going about your normal life, and this one event can happen, and then everything gets turned upside its head. And that's slasher movies, paranormal movies, monster creature feature. You mean, you look at the whole genre, and that's a lot of the premise is, you could just be a normal person. They're the most frightening ones. And then seeing how that person comes about, and some heroically, some fall to bits, some desire to get revenge. You're not judging, you know what I mean? You're just telling the story. And I think that's something horror has always done better than, I would argue, a lot of other genres.
Yeah, I agree. And I personally don't like resolution in anything. I like you to have to make your own mind up at the end of the film as what's probably happened to the characters, which is kind of fun. I mean, it's like, I'm always going to go back to this because it's my favorite film, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it starts and ends and then it's over. And then obviously people have died, so you know what's happened to some people, but still there's a bunch of stuff left open at the end. And okay, they made a bunch of sequels, but if you ignore them and just think about
please do.
Movie,
God.
it's great. And then you've got movies like Nightmare City, where it's just stupid at the ending, really, more than anything else. But it's kind of going to go in a cycle. Something's going to happen. Is it really happening? Is he having a dream? Whatever it is, anything that's open to an interpretation at the end of a movie is good. So I don't really want that much resolution.
It's like real life. Real life at the end of an incident just doesn't stop and everything gets tied up in a neat bow. Life carries on.
Well, yeah.
So to me, a story you should just be getting a snapshot of an event, as in part of a bigger universe.
Well, exactly, because you could be in the middle of doing something in your real life, something really important, and then you get hit by a bus and you're dead, and there's no resolution to what you were doing. It's just your life's over and it's gone. So it's like that's kind of how I want my movies to end. That's how I like movies. They just end, and you're like, oh, okay, what's happening there? And you got to think about it. And if the movie was interesting enough, you will sit. And sometimes I do sit for not that I sit in a chair for days.
No, but it rolls around. Any sort of art.
I'm driving around thinking, oh, I wonder why that was the way that was. And then I'm like, I need to watch that film again because maybe there's things earlier on in the movie that I missed I need to pick up on. So that's the kind of movies that I want to make and I want to watch that interest me. Do
you think that's what's going wrong? Like you said, you're challenging the genre. I don't think you're just challenging the slasher genre. I think you've had a more a deeper topic of movie making in particular, or storytelling. People aren't restrained anymore, particularly movies, by the length of it. Everyone has this need now to over explain every little detail. So there's nothing left for the audience. And usually what happens is most of the movies then become forgettable. You've almost forgotten what it is because everything's sort of being explained. You're like, okay. And then by the time you get to the movie, you've forgotten the first half of it. And by the time you walk out of the cinema or change the channel or turn it off to something else, you've actually forgotten what you've watched.
Well, that's it. I think my movie is very different in the sense of a lot of modern stuff that's coming out because it's what I call kind of classically shot. There's like nice, long. I think I'm motivated. I think movement is motivated for the camera for me in filmmaking. Not all the time, but most of the time it's motivated movement for the camera. So the camera will only move. That means if it has a reason to move. Not like now where you could watch a movie and for some reason there'll be like 20 crane shots in the scene or 20 drone shots in the scene that just make no sense. The movement of the camera should help push the story or tell or reveal something about a character, or, not just do it because you can, because the technology is there to do it anymore.
Yeah, I've got a toy, I want to use it, sort of thing, rather than
exactly. And I think lighting is a big thing in movies nowadays that people don't utilize properly anymore.
Sound,
especially for horror.
Oh my god,
sound is very much overlooked. I love
some movies I've watched, and I mean the sound is awful.
Well, you'll find that a lot.
I'm out.
Yeah, with first-time filmmakers as well, they will guarantee, a lot of them always prioritize the visual over the sound. Whereas the best, if anyone takes anything away from this, it's that people will forgive a shitty image, but no one forgives shitty sound. So employ a good sound guy with some good sound equipment. That's my advice.
That's something I actually learned with this podcast. Start just using different equipment, and the streaming was awful. Using different software, and it was taking up too much CPU space and that. And it was just, people didn't mind if maybe the stills froze sometime, but when the sound got choppy, that's when you can't watch it. And there's even YouTube videos I've watched, once the sound goes and starts going, that's it. You just can't watch it. You just
because people just it pulls you out. It's weird. It's really strange how visuals don't do that to you as much as sound do. I mean, obviously visuals can do that. Yeah. If it's, but it has
to go further down. Yeah, it has to be really jarring to do that.
It has to be very, very different. But yeah, sound, you just like an interruption, and it's almost as if, because it's like having a conversation. It'd be like if you're having a conversation in the street with someone, but then a car honks its horn really loudly. You just turn to the car and instantly you're out of that conversation, because you think something might have happened, and it just takes you out. And then depending on if the conversation was interesting or not, you've lost interest, then you're on to something else.
Yeah, cool. That was a good way to get out of it. But most importantly, what's next in the pipeline? What have you got cooking once you finish this?
Well, I mean, I've got a couple of scripts that are ready to go, but really what's in the pipeline after I finish editing the film is the long process of trying to sell it. That's the but I've been sitting on a comic book for about a year now, which I need to release, but I just never find the time to release it through my company. I wrote the first part. I wrote a comic book. It's a zombie comic set in Macau, which is a SAR kind of
something I don't hear too much about. Horror comics were the thing, and they seem to have vanished now, which is...
Well, I will plug another company while I'm here.
Yeah,
then.
Come on, this is what we're here for. Let's get it going. And
there's a company that I think they're based in Cardiff. I should know because I'm working with them right now, because they're a comic book company, but they're now moving into doing horror movies. They've done one horror movie already, and I'm working on the second horror movie as the director of photography. So it's it's an anthology horror feature film which they're making, and I'm the DP for the whole movie. But they've also asked me to direct one of the short, so we're currently in production on that. But it's a company based in Cardiff called Hellbound Media, and they release a lot of great horror comic books. I'll specially plug a comic book called Slaughterhouse Farm, because if you're into 80s slasher films, that's a really good comic for you to read. Actually, the reason I'm also plugging that is because the guy who co-wrote that comic book also co-wrote my movie. So
that's brilliant.
I've got a comic.
Why do you feel like you have to apologize for plugging stuff? This is what I need to get out, especially Brits. We are the worst for it. Be proud of what you do, man. That's what we're here. We're here to plug. We're here to get people's eyeballs on the stuff.
Well, you're right. I'm half British, so I'm half proud of what I do. So I'm still trying to fully accept it. You're right. I shouldn't apologize. I shouldn't apologize whatsoever. But yeah, no, their stuff's well worth checking out. But yeah, to answer your question, I have a comic book, but I just don't seem to find the time to release it, because it's just more about how to promote it. So at some point I'll release the first part of the comic, which it's all been done. And then, but really I just want to carry on making movies now. So I'll get this movie through post-production, sell it, and then get the financing for one of the other scripts that we have ready to go, and just keep making films more than anything else. That's my plan.
Well, obviously, once it becomes available for the greater unwashed like us to get our sticky hands on it, please reach out again and let us know, so I can make a post, if nothing else. Definitely, you're more than welcome back on, man. Back on, tell us about your other projects once they start getting together.
No, I've had a great time talking to you, man. I'd love to come back on again. Thank you.
You too, Jane. And thanks for coming on. Honestly, it's always a pleasure. And let's get let's get the British scene back out again. We've done movies and creative for centuries. You know what I mean? That nothing. Why we feel we'll have to stop all of a sudden? There's no reason for it.
Yeah, that's true.
Keep plugging on. You know what I mean? We've every right to have our stuff out there as everybody else. But there you go, folks. Links in the description. I've said it about 5 times. The Blade Cuts Deeper. Link to the website's in the description. Go check it out. Support it. Once we'll get some proper way to get it into our midst. Obviously, I'll come back and let you all know. But yeah, plenty of still. We're only just halfway through the month. Still loads of interviews and all going on the channel. Plenty of stuff going on. Tomorrow we are reviewing Books of Blood by Mr. Barker, another relatively he's a wee bit well known British writer. We're carrying on with that series. We're near at the end of that. We've done busy nearly his entire filmography at this point. So we're doing that tomorrow. As usual, keep up to date with the channel, do the typey clicky things. Until next time, keep it creepy, keep it horrific.